Peace, y'all. So, you know, wasn't sure if I was gonna do this or not, but um, so Afrika Bambaataa passed away, and I seen I seen one. The first video I saw was from All Access. So he was talking about it, and he was honest. I liked his approach. Then about a few hours later, I seen Star go live. Um, I was running around doing something in my apartment, and then I saw Star go live. So I watched Star for a little while, and then when I saw Hassan Campbell go live, I had to go to his channel. He went for an hour, So, but I agree with all the players that I agree with Hassan because well, let me put it like this. A lot of people in the culture and mainstream, they're gonna defend them no matter what. They're gonna say, "Oh, rest in peace, dude," blah blah blah. And I don't wish death on nobody. You know what I'm saying? Not even my worst enemy. But you can't, leave out what Bambaataa did to the victims. And what he did, and he did it. He wasn't just doing it in New York. He was doing it all over, from what I heard and from what I read. And supposedly, even one of the pioneers in the hip hop culture out in the UK, who committed suicide, was one of the victims. I can't remember his name right now, but yeah, and so it was a problem, and I've always, I always wonder why they never, like the U.S. government never came in and investigated him. And it's weird. They'll go after somebody who, for political reasons, you know what I'm saying, back in the day, speaking out against the Vietnam War, like John Lennon, or going after Palestinian Americans, speaking about against Israel, and which is wrong. But when it comes to American organizations, it's just weird. Like, because I go back to with the Nation of Islam and what happened to Malcolm X, and still, if you really think about it, regardless of what you might hear from people from the nation, including Farrakhan, the nation check out Malcolm X, and the U.S. government never did nothing about it. And so when all this came about, I mean, not even the NYPD really stepped in, and nobody from the FBI. No, not that I trust the FBI, but this is 2026 now, 2016 to 2026. Like, supposedly it's a different time now, but nothing. Whenever it's something that affects our community, with African American and Puerto Rican communities, the hood, Brooklyn, Bronx, whatever, nothing seems to be done about it. So these victims gotta live with what they went through, the rest of their lives, and of course they should move on, and I mean, not they gotta continue with life, but that's gonna stay with them, and I just wish that some of these guys like KRS-One and Fat Joe and even Q-Tip will be a little bit more sensitive to the victims, man, because it doesn't seem like they're saying anything, if or they'll say, well, I don't know, you might be lying, you know. But at least KRS-One was honest. He said he won't believe it. I mean, they're all kind of honest to an extent, you know what I'm saying? Like that they were honest. Fat Joe was like, you know how I feel, and I know how Fat Joe feel, even though Fat Joe himself is a question mark, you know. And you know, it's tough, man. But man, the legacy, for good or for bad, Afrika Bambaataa's legacy is forever going to be he's the godfather of hip hop or whatever, unless that changes. But it's not going to change, and if it does, it's gonna be a long time. Even now that he passed away, that's going to change. But what, and for me, right? You know, I grew up listening to all kinds of music, but you know, me being a Puerto Rican Brooklyn boy, you know, the breakdance thing kind of caught on to me when I was in kindergarten. You know, I was trying to break dance, and I remember seeing Red DMC and the Fat Boys for the first time on TV back in the day. I remember seeing Red DMC perform at the American Bandstand because me and my moms used to watch that show all the time, and 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 seeing Run DMC and Reading Rainbow, that was my introduction to hip hop as somebody that was born in '78. You know, my introduction wasn't Curtis Blow or I'm from Brooklyn anyway. But I didn't even know about Nucleus. I never even knew Nucleus was from Brooklyn until I seen Cosmo D's interview. So it's kind of interesting. But for me, what motivated me to love rap music specifically was Red DMC and the Fat Boys, Joe Oski, and he did the Pee Wee Herman song, the Cartoon Crew, you know, the Get Fresh crew. That's when, and even Madtronics, and even the Beastie Boys, because I had one older cousin that had like a Madtronics tape. My other older cousin had like a Beastie Boys tape. I was late on LL Cool J, but I was a kid, so that's okay. So that was my introduction. I never knew anything about Zulu Nation then, and so when I found out later on when I was in junior high school, I was like, oh, okay, Zulu Nation, I got it. Then that's when I heard Soul Sonic Force for the first time. Well, actually, maybe a year after. Well, nah, it was that year, maybe late '91, and I didn't know they was tied to Zulu Nation, and you know, and so I never idolized, that era, and I never idolized anybody, period. But I never idolized that era. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that was from that era. I was a student. I was learning. I was listening to music, and you know, and then I remember late '91. I was probably listening to Red Alert, Silver D first, then Red Alert. I was already listening to Red Alert when I was like 10 years old. So, and but Silver D, I was into Silver D, and that's when I heard in '92. I remember hearing the Zulu chant. That was a hip hop record. Where they take some shows that I guess some of the DJs in Zulu Nation did, and they turned it into a song. And it was dope. I mean, music is music. It's just good music. But I knew it was powerful. Like, I felt the power, and I'm like, okay, this is like another kind of hip hop. Like, you know, it wasn't getting played in the daytime because those kinds of records didn't get played in the daytime. But I think they call it big beat mixes or big beat songs. You know, that's what they titled it a long time ago when YouTube first came out. That's what they were titled with. But to me, it's just a hip hop record, and you know, I could hear them chanting Zulu. I understand like the second part when it was like ooh, ah, ah, oh, because there was like mix. I guess they were messing around with the turntables and the Vaders, and now I know what they were saying because I heard what Charlie Rock was trying to talk about. They were saying Zulu, Gestapo. So, and yeah, you know, Zulu had created a movement within hip hop. Hip hop was already going on before that, but a lot of people who probably my age, maybe a little older, they probably don't know that. And I had to relearn because, you know, I forgot about Disco Mario. You know, I remember hearing about a guy named Disco Mario passing away when I was in high school, but I never, you know, I forgot about it. And then I kept hearing everybody saying, you know, Kool Herc and Afrika Bambaataa. At that time, it was more Zulu Nation and Afrika Bambaataa I was hearing about, not even Kool Herc. When I did hear Kool Herc, it was always in connection to the Cold Crush brothers. So they wasn't really saying Kool Herc was the guy. I mean, he's in my radar. When I was listening to the radio at that time, they wasn't calling Kool Herc Godfather until way later on when I became a grown man. You know, it was usually then I don't know the time. I can't really just say the time because I'm not from the Bronx, but you know, but regardless, even the timeline, even some of the things that people in hip hop are saying, kind of is biased for Afrika Bambaataa. Not to say that his movement, you know, wasn't powerful, and it was, but I would say from remembering my introduction to hip hop, and I don't even know where I got the breakdancing from. I seen it on TV. Obviously, that came from the breakdancers and probably at that time the popularity of Rocksteady and the other group. I can't remember right now. The City Breakers, I think the name was. And then, you know, Fat Boys, Red DMC, Joe Roski, and none of them was Zulu Nation. That they was from different parts of New York. I didn't even know the Fat Boys were from Brooklyn too. So they was from Brooklyn, East New York. Rest in peace, Priest Marky D. He had the same last name as me. But as far as I know, I'm not related to him. Although he looks like some of my relatives, I ain't gonna lie. As far as I know, he's not related to us. But I never idolized. Well, I never idolized anybody. But if I did, when I was 10 years old, when I was really following hip hop like that, January 1989, when I started watching Video Music Box, and I didn't really listen to Brother Lure until it might have been around that time, but I remember distinctly listening to Brother Lure late '89. Because again, I'm 10 years old. You know, I'm just learning the radio station. I already knew what Z100 was, but then I started listening to High 97, who was the dance station at that time, and then started hearing Kiss FM, then BLS as well, and so as far as I remember it, And knowing what I know now, and listen to the people that were there, and they were all. And and you gotta remember, like, there's a lot of pioneers that don't get really, or people that were there in hip hop, because the word create and the word pioneer is a very strong word. Like, you gotta, I could say pioneering. Zulu. I guess Zulu Nation was pioneering, I guess, but they wasn't pioneers. They just took something that was already Afrika Bambaataa took something that was already going on, and he just made it his own. And then he grabbed some of the guys that were all kind of already maybe doing it, and he took it with them, and it rubbed certain. I could see that it rubbed certain people the wrong way. Uh, but still, even with them, the ones that new Bam before it became famous, it's like, okay, you're saying Bam is not the creator, but you're still like giving him props, and you're still doing this and that, like, because if you put everything together, right? And again, I don't wish death on nobody, but if you put everything together, you know, there's this guy named Fat Mike, rest in peace, one of the original Black Spades, and he was the first one. I remember seeing 2014, 2015 saying F Afrika Bambaataa, because he felt he was taking other people what other people were doing it, and claiming it on his own as his own, and like, it's true, because even with Tex D Hollywood, I remember hearing something about Tex D Hollywood when I was younger, but I was getting hit with so many, because Afrika Bambaataa had a radio show on Hot 97 at 12 o'clock, and so everything was all African by Zulu Nation, African by Zulu Nation. The Coke Rush Brothers had their show. No, it was the Furious Five, actually, and they were more. They will always bring up the Coke Crush Brothers more. And that was my introduction to the Coke Crush Brothers, was through the Furious Five, and I already knew about them when I finally, when Ralph McDaniels started doing the Old School Mondays, and he played The Message. And that was my first time seeing the Furious Five, knowing the Furious Five. Well, I'm like, okay, because I knew it was from that era of the Fat Boys and Jodeci, but before that. So, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so everything on Hot 97, and this is after Hot 97 became a hip hop R&B station. Everything was all about Zulu Nation, Zulu Nation, Zulu Nation. Of course, when Disco Mary passed, I think I remember hearing it. It might have been from Furious Five. But I rarely heard anything about Disco Mary. I rarely heard anything about Tex D Hollywood, or even Cool D, or even the turntable mixologist, passed away a year ago or 2 years ago. Everything was just Zulu, Zulu, Zulu. And after, in 92, when Hot 97 was still a dance station, when I heard Silver D play the Zulu chant anthem, that's when I started hearing, little by little, certain rappers shouting out Zulu Nation, A Tribe Called Quest. After Hot 97 became a hip hop R&B station, I started hearing A Tribe Called Quest, shout out Zulu Nation, Five Dog, rest in peace, Fat Joe. Everything was Zulu, Zulu, Zulu. But I wasn't getting told nothing about not just the people before Bambaataa, but some of the other dudes after them, except Grandmaster Flash. But I knew about the Cold Crush, but I didn't know specifically until they did an interview in their First Five show, the Mic Check show, Sunday nights, when they I guess they mentioned names. Ruby D sounds familiar, so I had to learn about specifically about the beginnings of the Cold Crush. I think I seen that little video they did in the basketball court. I think I seen that a long time ago, but I re-saw it again on YouTube. And but yeah, nothing was about like the early 70s or even 73. Everything was just about Zulu Nation. and they were powerful. They were worldwide, and from what I heard, they did do a lot of things for the community, even though the people that were in charge, they were helping to destroy the community because of what Bam allegedly was doing. Well, it's not really alleged anymore. It's not street rumors. He didn't show up to court, so he's guilty. He's guilty. He didn't show up to court. One of the victims filed a lawsuit against me. He didn't show up to court. He's guilty. You know what I'm saying? So, and my love for music, my love for the culture, it made me kind of, run with the whole Zulu Nation for a long time. I mean, even when nobody was buying, Afrika Bambaataa CDs, like he released a couple of CDs, I actually bought it because I didn't know nothing about what was going on until 2016. So, and it was good music, you know what I'm saying? But I do remember saying to myself, so what's up with the singers and the rappers on this album? Well, are they going to be famous? Are they going to get a record deal? You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, it's kind of weird that every time somebody works for Bam, he brings an artist in, they never become famous. Even, so, yeah, I mean, Zulu Nation was putting out dope music. I remember in late 1995 hearing Throw Your Funky Hands Up for the first time. The hook was crazy, they had the cartoon voice, throw your fucking hands up. And the female was doing her thing, but then I'm like, that song was so dope. There was a lot of people liked it, but it didn't get through Battle of the Beats because a lot of other people didn't like it. It was too off the wall. But you know me, I'm hip hop all the way. I love that shit. It was close, but it didn't get put on the playlist because too many people didn't like it. I liked it though. It was good music. But I remember saying to myself, what happened to the female? You know what I'm saying? What happened to that rapper? And so then decades later, before Scandal broke, I started seeing, one of his YouTube channels, the Culture since '71, and they do their thing, they documenting what was going on, and even through there, certain pioneers don't get along with each other, right? I'm not here because I wasn't there. I'm a young guy, but DJ FaZe, Charlie Rock going back and forth, DJ FaZe and Green Eye Genie going back and forth, and then Charlie Chase admits that he don't really see eye to eye with Grandmaster Caz, and so a lot of these dudes don't get along with each other, and it's been that way for a long time. I realize now, but that's not the issue. You know what I'm saying? The issue is I don't think one person created hip hop. It's a group effort, but if you look at, I think I lost track of what I was gonna say, but what I was trying to say is the timeline. If you're gonna say, if Bam took the turntables from Disco Mario, he never gave it back. Then he brought some of the guys from Disco Mario, took him with him, and never took Disco Mario with him. Then that's kind of foul, right? And looking from the outside in, as a man, as a street dude, if you look at the streets, that's like foul play. You know what I'm saying? Like, because Disco Mario allegedly was one of the first ones, or the first one that was out there in that area in the Bronx with the music out, right? Doing what he does with the microphone and all that. So if that was me, I would bring him in, but Bam didn't do that, and then he brought these other people that were with Disco Mario. They went with Afrika Bambaataa. They kind of left Disco Mario out to dry. So right away, that's foul play. That's foul. Like, that's okay. That's a little shiesty. And And true, I heard Green Eye Genie did the same thing. He took Ran Weezy Theodore with him because I think they're brothers or something. And of course, I know who Grand Weezy Theodore is. And Disco Mario, I think allegedly had a problem with that, as the story goes, as I'm hearing. Um, but so see, so Bam does that, right? Then he never sometime, and I'm skipping over a lot because I wasn't there. Bam declares that he was, or KRS One says that he was the founder of the Black Space, but Bam never really said anything. He kind of let KRS One do that, so you can't just blame KRS One for saying that. You gotta blame Zulu Nation for allowing anybody connected to Zulu Nation, because KRS One is kind of connected to Zulu Nation, for saying that. You know, the Black Spades were created in 1968. I was a long time ago. I was way before Bam, so I don't know where he got the information from, but at least KRS One is backtracking now. But you know, so then there's the rumors, like everyone said they heard rumors that Bam was gay. Fine, yeah, no rumors about being a pedophile, just rumors that he's gay. And then you have another aspect that nobody's bringing up: the fact that Zulu Nation was supposed to be love, peace, unity, and having fun. And I used to think that too, until I heard the media say, "Nah, Zulu Nation is a gang." And I'm like, what? I heard that in 1995, and when I was at summer school, I seen it in the news. And I'm like, nah, I don't know. But then they showing Zulu Nation members, throwing up gang signs, and I'm like, nah, that's not Zulu Nation. But yeah, as time goes on, you listen. I guess that's why I don't do too many YouTube videos, because I like to listen before I speak on something I know. And so you have TC Islam, who was killed in Atlanta, who was gonna make a documentary. He already went on record. That was right before he was killed. That was the first time I seen him really go on any kind of platform and cause or question Zulu Nation. I'm not saying that Zulu killed TC Islam. Supposedly they arrested some young guys, but you never know. You never know how people can pay dues to pay young guys to do it, and it looks like it was just some other stuff. But I don't know. I can't really say for sure. So, and I think he said he left Zulu Nation in 1990 because it was becoming like a gang. And then you start hearing the stories about Green Eye Genies telling the stories about Bam and bringing in a whole bunch of guns. And he said it was for protection, but I'm like, sounds like gun trafficking to me. It sounds like sounds like you're ready for war. That's not something that Zulu Nation is supposed to do. But I'm pretty sure if Green Eye Genie says it and he was there, that's probably what it was. But a lot of some of these pioneers, they went on to, get involved in an illegal activity, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of things get foggy after that. But because I always thought it wasn't about that, except I kind of used to hear off and on about the Black Space growing up. I'm pretty sure anybody my age did, because that's how big they was. If I remember hearing their names, then I'm pretty sure anybody that's from those parts of Brooklyn, not the quiet part of Brooklyn, probably heard about it. But at that time I was living in Millwood, Brooklyn, which is not really the hood, and I heard about it, because I'm always paying attention, because at that time I had friends that were down with Deceps. You know, everybody was joining a gang, and uh, so it seems to me that the reason why Afrika Bambaataa was getting away with a lot of things is because the people around him were allowing it, and even on the people on the outside that he became friends with later on, they was like co-signing it. So nobody's innocent in that whole situation, and now we have to question the whole story of hip hop, right? Like, and even though I didn't like the way DJ Faze and even Lord Jamar, I know they cool, and I like the way they sounded when he was talking about, you know, FBAs and Puerto Ricans. I don't really care about that, in my opinion. You know, I know the truth. It's a Black American culture. You know, but you can't be mad at guys that took something that you didn't take seriously and took it to another level. And half of them were Puerto Rican. I mean, or at least a little less than half of enough of them was. I mean, it was enough that, you know. So you can't be mad at that. I mean, and I'm pretty sure there was some Puerto Ricans too that wanted to do the hip hop thing, but they started doing illegal stuff too. It was a, you know. But I didn't know that. I always thought the people who started hip hop were against violence and against this and that. Now I'm saying it was complete. So now, so that's the problem right there. So there was no organizational control for hip hop. So Bam took advantage of that. In my opinion, looking at the timeline, he took advantage of that and said, okay, these guys ain't doing nothing. They're getting high. They're doing this, doing that. I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna create the organization that eventually created Zulu Nation. And I think that's how it happened. And even some of the people that knew Bam before became famous, they don't really know, because a lot of them disappeared after. A lot of them sold drugs, became stick-up kids, all that. So me being the typical Brooklyn guy that I am, always analyzing everything, I can say that that's probably what happened. Bam took advantage of the fact that a lot of people didn't really, you know, even though they say otherwise now, they didn't really rock with Disco Mario like that. They probably didn't take him seriously. And so Bam took advantage of that. He saw that, took advantage of it. Saw the Disco Mario. He was cool with Disco Mario. He took advantage of his friendship, and then he took advantage of the people around him who probably didn't rock with Disco Mario 100%. Because if they did, they would have never went with Afrika Bambaataa. You know what I'm saying? And so, because even if you're a teenager, you know right from wrong. I knew right from wrong. That's why I never became a stick-up kid, even though it was tough. A lot of dudes around me were they're robbing people, but that's not me. I'm not a bully. I was raised better than that. You know, I was raised by a father. You know what I mean? I had no father. But it seems to me that Bam was just taking advantage of everybody, and nobody wants to admit that. Nobody, of course, grown men are never gonna admit, "Oh, Bam took advantage of me." He took advantage of it. They ain't gonna admit that they're weak. They have to show that they're strong, even if they mess up, went to prison and all that. I'm strong. I'm this. I'm that. But to me, it seems like Bam was taking advantage of everybody. You know, regardless of what DJ Faye says or Charlie Rock says or Crazy Legs, I don't care what any of them say. He took advantage of any weak situation that he saw. He took advantage of that and maneuvered. You know what I'm saying? To go into the top spot. That's what it sounds like he was doing. And it wasn't just him. He couldn't do it on his own. It had to be the other guys with him. As much Soul Sonic Force, you know, especially Mr. Biggs. his longtime manager at the time that everybody brings up, and I feel like that's how it happened, you know what I'm saying? And so then that's when Bam probably, now I remember hearing the tape of Mr. Biggs, right? So he said, Bam was probably molested by a gay babysitter, right? That's what he said. So that's something that they covered up as well. But once Bam got a little older and got a little power, with his attentions, whatever he was doing in closed doors with guys the same age as him, now he was doing it with young teenagers. He stayed doing it with young teenagers, 80s, 90s, 2000s, not just in New York City, not just in the United States. And, and he was using the people around him almost like, I don't want to say brainwashing, but I mean, it's a form of brainwashing if you're believing everything a man says, you know what I'm saying? So, but he used his power to, hide the fact of what he was doing, and hearing the stories of what he was doing in that apartment, they knew. Now, why would they allow that to happen? I have no idea. They're probably some sick bastards, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they wanted to look the other way. Maybe there was too much at stake, especially after Soul Sonic Force blows up. I mean, they had 3 big songs, especially in 1983, they had 2 more songs. I mean, and Zulu Nation was already growing, it was already big. At that time, as big as the Black Spades, and probably after that, bigger, way bigger, worldwide. And so, putting everything together, it feels like we probably have to change the whole story around and retell it, because even the players that were there in the beginning don't really want to bash Afrika Bambaataa. And I think that's whack. I think if you heard the rumors that Bam is gay and you see him with young boys later on, somebody got to say something, right? Why y'all? Come on. Now, if y'all wasn't there, then I feel like they felt the culture as much as the higher ups in Zulu Nation felt the culture, or the genre. Really, it's just a genre, because I think it's a lifestyle, it's a culture, and every genre of music has a lifestyle and a culture. But I think we took it too much to the extreme with Zulu Nation. I always wondered if Bam did that because he was hungry with power. Because in every other genre of music, you don't see an organization. You just see a lifestyle. It's a culture and a lifestyle, like rock and roll. And then within rock and roll, you have so many subgenres like heavy metal. Heavy metal is a culture. Punk rock is a lifestyle and a culture. R&B music is a lifestyle and a culture, A lot of the singers come from the church, so there's a gospel connect. Gospel music is a lifestyle. So, but why in hip-hop do we have to have an organization? We should have that outside hip-hop just to fix the community if they're worried about violence, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me as somebody from Brooklyn and was seeing kids join the Decepticons, and you know what I'm saying? Like, and then later on, in high school, way after the Decepticons fell apart, everybody was just being stick-up kids and robbing people. Then we need an organization on the streets to handle that. not in the culture of music. You know what I'm saying? Music is supposed to be music. So once you understand it that way, then you understand, okay, maybe Bam had a different intention, a different reason for creating Zulu Nation. Had nothing to do with the music, because music is music. He wanted power, he wanted control. A lot of brown kids, you know what I'm saying? He wanted to control the community. Why? Well, he was having sex with some of those young boys. He was molesting them. So he wanted, and then he was having them do things for Zulu Nation, violent things, right? So it's not about love, peace, unity, and having fun. It's about hate, sex, molestation, having guns. That's basically what it sounds like to me. And so it doesn't make sense for Zulu Nation to even exist. Now, if you want to preserve the culture, then you can do it on your own time. You can call up Grandmaster Caz, Melly Mel, Charlie Chase, and just say, hey, let's go around the world. Let's teach people what the genre is and what the culture is. We don't need something for, you know what I'm saying, like that. But that's not what happened. And a lot of those guys that Bam was recruiting, a lot of them were involved in illegal activity already, probably. You know what I'm saying? It became like a street version of the Nation of Islam. Because Bam had his own religious theocracy, and that's very occult-like. It's cult. A lot of these organizations are cults. They like to control, like Scientology. To me, the way Bam looked and everything later on, especially when the scandal broke, Star broke the scandal. I saw it as he was like it was like, well, he was following Dr. York. Now, Bam was a supporter of Dr. York, so let's talk about that right there. Dr. York, you know what I'm saying, he started a cult group. He molested girls, boys, men, and women. He convinced them to have sex with them, right? And if you know, a lot of these psychotic people, mentally ill people in prison, they some of them are good, articulate. They know how to articulate them. You'd be like, damn, this guy's smart. He's intelligent. And then you have a soft spot for helping people. I think that's how those things start. You know what I'm saying? And they gave him too much power, and he became the leader. And Dr. York was from the Marcy Projects, I believe. You know what I'm saying? Sorry about that. I'm from nearby Marcy, so it's a lot of good people in Marcy, but that's where he's from. And well, it's mostly good people in Marcy Projects. I'm not gonna say it's perfect either. But it's just, so Bam is following that, and now I see the correlation. And then it's like he's bringing in Scientology, which is what Farrakhan did also. He brought elements of Scientology into the Nation of Islam. I don't agree with that. Now, anyway, Bam did the same thing. But Scientology is weird. That's very cult-like, very, I won't even say devilish because I'm not religious. It's more like they're mind-controlling people. And if you read any books about people who were in Scientology, it's like a horror story. It's like a nightmare. And then they convince you that we're all beings inside, and once you come out, we this and that. There's no male, female. I think that's what Dr. York is trying to say. But that's a form of mind control, because you already have people that believe in aliens. So you have the whole alien thing coming up, which I don't believe in none of that shit. So he's telling everyone there's aliens, UFOs, all this stuff, right? All this weird stuff that has nothing to do with the struggle and the music and the culture that comes with the music, the DJing, graffiti. That has nothing to do with that. So, I was gonna go one way, I'm gonna go this way. So yeah, that. So all that should have been questioned from the very beginning. From the at least from the time in 2006 when YouTube first came out, people should have went on. She did little videos and said, okay, I disagree with that, and I'm gonna say why. The only person that was known to be outspoken before the social media age was TC Islam. So that's why he left. So you didn't have the violence, right? So on top of all that, the violence. So these kids got molested by Bam, and now they have to prove that they're still a man. And so Bam is egging that on. He's like, yo, you want to do something for me? Do this for me. It's almost like the way he was molesting these kids, it was almost like how they rape young men in prison. You know what I'm saying? Like, kind of like that. Like, he would leave, come back in the room. From what I heard, he would be half naked already or naked, and he'd be like, take off your clothes. Like that. Like, so, and it takes, to convince somebody to allow themselves to be molested, that takes a lot. It's gotta mean that you respect that man for a lot of reasons, and then you fear him at the same time, and then you have nowhere to go because not all of them, but half of the teenagers that he molested were in the streets or were homeless, group homes or whatever. So that messed up, and the ones that weren't, they ended up because they mentally that messes you up. Because most of them not gay, they still not gay. Just because you're molested by a man doesn't mean you're gonna become gay. And that's what kills you the most, So, and let me just say that I said this before in one video a long time when I started really doing my videos. 10 years before Star broke the story about Afrika Bambaataa, my barber told me about a producer in the Bronx, and there were these kids, and a lot of back then, you were trying to be a rapper, a singer, or a breakdancer. And yeah, some of them were trying to be singers. A lot of them became singers, because some of the hip hop sounds are very melodic. So if you can have somebody sing over those tracks, yeah, that's how freestyle music started. So my barber was trying to get into freestyle at that time, 1989, and he said that the one guy he knows from a group, my barber told me he was with a group called Three Kings. It's something that Puerto Ricans celebrate or acknowledge. And he was like, he told me that this man was like, yo, you want to get a record deal? Gotta go to this guy's apartment. And I think it was in the Bronx. It was probably in the Bronx. And Bob was like, hell no. No, but you gotta do it because everybody does it. And so my barber told me this. And like I said before, I'm not gonna say names, but he told me the names of some popular singers, and there's a mixture of truth and fiction, so it's hard to decipher what's real and what's not, what's true, what's not, but he was molesting teenagers that wanted to become singers or before they became singers. I don't know if all of it is true though, but I believe him now more than I did in 2006. Now I believe him because you look at it, and there's one club promoter who promotes some of the the early hip hop artists, and he also promotes a lot of freestyle artists. He's openly, I believe he's gay. He's openly homeless. And then one of the producers who also did freestyle music is gay. I'm not saying he was molested and that's why he's gay. I'm just saying it's there. Just like we know now that Bam was gay. In that era, and that's the Studio 54 era too. So you hear from the victims of Bam, some of them, not all of them. Some of them didn't want to show their face. They said that it wasn't just Bam, it was other grown men in the room molesting him. But they didn't know who these men were. Now, they could have been from the streets. Bam was, whatever, The hood is ratchet. The hood is ratchet. Especially in the... Y'all know if you're from the Bronx, It's crazy over there. But I've seen some ratchet stuff in Brooklyn, too, but... So... I've always wondered whether... And I'm not saying that everybody that... That's like saying everybody in hip-hop is gay. Not everyone that came from hip-hop that started doing freestyle music is gay either. You know what I'm saying? Like, Full Force is not gay. You know what I'm saying? Like, Lisa didn't have to sleep with anybody to get put on. She got put on by Full Force. You know what I'm saying? Planet Patrol they didn't get molested. They was the first freestyle group. They didn't get molested by anybody. So it's not everybody. But it was enough that my barber knew, and I didn't believe him. Until 2016 when Star broke the vow. And I didn't believe it until Ronald Savage came forward, and then Hassan Campbell, and then some other people that didn't want to show their face, and then he got the lawsuit now from last year. Everything adds up now. So I always wondered whether one of those other guys was that producer that my barber was talking about. So we have a whole freaking circle of grown men that are tied to the music industry that are molesting brown kids, predominantly African American and Puerto Rican kids. And that's a problem. But whenever anything that affects us, the government doesn't seem to care. I'm being honest, they don't. They really don't. But, so, they're gonna have to analyze how the whole music industry, the hip hop culture came about. They might have to take back some things, add some things to it, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're gonna have to, because you can't defend Afrika Bambaataa completely anymore, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't. And, so, yeah, and the whole narrative might have to change a little bit. And I wish some of the victims were kind of, and some of the victims will kind of come forward, maybe have a sit down with some of the pioneers, and some of the pioneers would sit down with them, you know what I'm saying? Like, sit at a round table, just hear them out, you know what I'm saying? Just hear them out, because they deserve to be heard. And so that's my take on the whole thing. Is I feel like Bam was just taking advantage. I mean, he did his thing as a DJ. I'm not gonna take that away from him. He was a DJ. I guess he did battles and all that. That has to stay because he was there. That has to stay. But his intentions and why he did what he did, why he didn't say this, and why he said that, that has to be addressed 100%. You know what I'm saying? Since he created this whole organization called Zulu Nation, which were doing things that had nothing to do with music. And you know, shout out to all the good brothers and sisters, at the lower level. There's a lot of good people in Zulu Nation. I don't doubt that. But even within Zulu Nation, I mean, they did force African Bambaataa to step down. But so I guess it comes from like the circle of Soul Sonic Force, really, you know. But Zulu Nation is involved because they didn't force him to step. They didn't know. A lot of the younger Zulus probably didn't know, but they didn't force him to step down until after the scandal. So that's my only problem with. And then there's the violence, you know. I don't advocate for violence, and you know, it's a tough situation. I don't want to knock, you know, the people that they have an influence in the music, but that's how I feel. I feel there has to be acknowledgement, and there has to be some kind of event. From what I know, an investigation into, which is gonna be tough. I don't know how you come across that, an investigation into who else was involved, because we keep hearing Bambaataa, but there was other grown men in there. So who were they? And what about this producer that my brother was talking about? How come he's not getting? And I remember the producer's name. I can't remember it. But all those people have to be dragged in court. All the circles, whether it's Sao Abatello, that's the guy I was talking about before that was a club promoter. I mean, Sao Abatello has to be taken to court to see if he knew, if he'd been in Bam's apartment, if he knew Bam was molesting, or even if he was involved in it. His manager, you know what I'm saying, has to come in. You know, Mr. Biggs has to come in. You know, like everybody in that circle has to be investigated, has to be asked questions. But I don't see that happening. You know, I think Layla Wills is trying to do something. Shout out to Layla Wills. You know, definitely. But that I feel like that there needs to be something similar to like an Epstein thing, where you depose people, put them in front of a judge, or ask them questions in a room, and by local Congress people at that position, you know. And I think that's how it's gonna have to be done, you know, because I don't really care about, at this point, I don't care about the culture, or all I care about is the music. If you can rap, you can DJ, then you stay in the culture. You can't, get the fuck out. That's all I care about. You know what I'm saying? But at this point, I think we overdid it with the whole, and then the temple of hip hop, KRS-One. You know, like, I mean, is there a temple of rock and roll? I mean, is there a temple of punk rock? Is there a temple of disco? Like, why do we need a temple of hip hop? Like, you know, and I was thinking about going there back in the day when I was 20, but then, because now I'm glad I didn't, because now I look at everything and I'm like, yeah, it's not what it seems, you know. I mean, KRS-One loves the music and the culture. Still is a spokesperson, a flawed spokesperson, but he's a spokesperson, and I know he's positive. He loves the other artists and all that, but you know. And then I would say the way, because if you're gonna do music, you like to make a living off the music, right? Rapper, singer, group, whatever, right? So just like a lot of the singers and artists that work with Bambaataa that never became famous, and you wonder what the hell happened to them, even though they were talented. Same thing about the temple of hip hop. Like, A lot of MCs went through there. Carriers won their songs with some of them. But where are they now? How come they don't got a record deal? How come they're not getting pushed? How come there's not the whole hip hop structure it's not pushing them? You know what I'm saying? Like, here's this guy. Here's Problems. He's a dope. He's nice. Push him. Send him to every DJ and every mix show. They'll promote that mother, right? None of that happened. So I question everything now, and I think we should pull back and just enjoy the music and do music. You could be a rapper and you don't gotta be all hip hop culture all the time. Like, cause I remember late 80s, early 90s, a lot of rap artists weren't, they were doing specifically rap music and hip hop music. They loved the music, but they wasn't trying to solidify themselves as legends and all like that. They just wanted to do good music. And that's why you had a lot of rappers that were signing production deals with different kinds of production groups. And these production groups, technically not hip hop, but they was doing hip hop at the time. So like CNC Music Factory, like KLF, you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, their songs were just as motivated in me the same way Chubb Rock Treat Me Right was very motivated, very powerful, you know what I'm saying? Like, and very fun to listen to, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all about having fun, for real. So I wasn't just listening to Chubb. I don't consider just Chubb Rock and Brand New being hip hop. I also consider CNC Music Factory, and KLF hip hop. Like, it's not just about they never worked with DJ Premier. So what? Like, shout out to DJ Premier, but you don't gotta love hip hop, do hip hop, or get respect as a rap artist if you do a song with DJ Premier. Like, you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? Because the whole point back then was to sound completely different. And I'm pretty sure that's why Freedom Williams signed that production deal with CNC Music Factory, because he wanted his music to sound completely different. You know, even Moni Love, her music was completely different. It didn't sound like, you know, Gangstar. You know what I'm saying? Like, not everybody. Premier is dope. I like the shit he produces, but not everybody has to do a song with DJ Premier. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we have to kind of go back to having our own style and own little organization in the music, you know what I'm saying? Your own producers and DJs and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you know, salute to all the victims of Bambaataa. And this is kind of long. I didn't think I was gonna go this long. So yeah, I think I said enough.